Good morning. My name is Gary Mitchener, and I'm the pastor of St. Patrick Episcopal Church in Brunswick, Ohio. I hope you've had the opportunity to listen to today's gospel reading. What a joy it is for me to welcome you, especially on this festival of Pentecost, in which we commemorate the story of the resurrected Jesus saying to those frightened disciples hiding behind locked doors, "Receive the Holy Spirit. Receive the Holy Spirit." But first, I'd like to share a personal story. I first knew I wanted to be a preacher when I was only, if you can imagine this, I was only 7 years old. Now, my parents and I lived next to a vacant lot in a neighborhood where there were very few children for me to play with. But it happened that on the other side of that vacant lot, there lived a second grader who was named Russell. Now, I had seen Russell at a distance, but we had never actually talked to each other. So on this particular day, I somehow found the courage, and I mean courage, while obeying my mom's order not to leave our yard, the courage to start yelling as loudly as I could, "Wussel, Wussel, come play with me, Wussel." Silence. But of course, Russell, being a sophisticated second grader, could not be bothered with a little kid like me. Who knows? Maybe Russell was simply watching the Howdy Doody show or Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. But you know what I did? Instead of standing there crying like the 7-year-old baby that I was, I ran back to our basement and I found an old orange crate and I nailed 2 sticks of wood together so that it looked sort of like a pulpit. And I preached my first sermon. I preached my heart out to my stuffed animals sitting neatly in a row, the way you're supposed to sit when you're in church. I really appreciated your taking the time to listen to this story of how I experienced the Holy Spirit. In closing, I'd like to point out that just as those early disciples in this morning's gospel were locked inside for fear of the Jewish religious leaders, so we too are locked inside. But for us, it's because of the COVID-19 virus and the news reports giving us nonstop information about which parts of the country are reporting the most deaths. And there's nothing we can do about it. Well, yes and no. There are a few things we can do, at least for the people we care about. For example, we could agree with a friend to pick up their groceries or medicines and deliver them to the friend. Or we might call another friend and ask if we might just stop by for a chat together and maybe help with chores, being careful to wear our masks. Incidentally, this mask was made for me by a St. Patrick parishioner. Well, you can't hear me. Anyway, we could bring a hymnal and we could sing some of our favorite hymns together. I really believe that when Jesus said, "Receive the Holy Spirit," to those frightened disciples, he also said, "Receive the Holy Spirit," to those of us who are frightened, which is to say, all of us. As a ancient prayer goes, Lord, have mercy. Christ, have mercy. Lord, have mercy. Amen.